Hello, everyone. Today I wanted to talk about a 1973 movie that was released by King Lorber, I think, the end of 2019. This is Charley Varrick. It stars Walter Matthau, directed by Don Siegel. It's the story of a bank robbery that goes bad. They're in a sleepy um, New Mexico town. Uh, there's multiple deaths. The first 30 minutes of the film is a very intense accounting of the bank robbery and the initial getaway. Uh, there's only two people left in the gang. Walter Matthau has been the brains, and Andy Robinson, who is sort of his dim-witted associate. When they open up the bags to take a look at their haul, instead of finding what they expected to be about a couple $1,000s, maybe they get lucky and a little bit more, and instead they find $750,000. Matthau quickly understands that this must have been mob money that has been laundered, and this little tiny bank was being used as a drop point for this mob money. So he knows now um, not only are the police going to be hot on their trail, but so will the mob. And as a Siegel movie, this film really moves along. Siegel had a particular style. It was no nonsense. He didn't do a lot of coverage, so we don't get a lot of extraneous editing. When we need it, we get it. Siegel was an old timer from the 1930s. He knew how to edit films, and he pretty much did it in his head. And Clint Eastwood, you see Clint Eastwood movies, and you study his style, and you'll see Don Siegel pretty much everywhere. There's no flamboyance. You stick to the story and keep it moving, and which this film very well does very well. And and the dual nature of this sleepy little town in the opening credits, which are beautiful, we get to see this bucolic setting of farmlands, children running in a park. It looks like a vision of paradise, but it's not, because in the center of the town, here is $750,000 of mob money. And the dual nature runs through the whole film, and everybody's got a disguise. Nobody is who he says they are. Um, the bank robbers, a couple of them have masks, like in Stanley Kubrick's The Killing, and Walter Matthau has his own disguise. And he had been a crop duster, but the big companies, the big corporations doing the crop dusting and putting him out of business. So that is why he's become a bank robber. And this dual nature really gets illustrated in the two bank executives. One is the local bank executive, and he's played by Woodrow Parpe, a very recognizable character actor. And he's nervous, he's scared. John Vernon plays the executive in from Reno, the bank executive who owns all these banks. And both of them have been, especially Vernon, is enmeshed in the mob. He understands, because they never usually put a lot of money in this bank, and why would it get robbed with one time that they do? Inside job. They go out, and one of the best scenes in the film, they go out into pasture land, Vernon sits on a fence, and he explains to this local business, this local bank manager, the trouble they're in. And he said, the police are one thing, but the mob is something else. Of course, they're innocent. They haven't done anything. They're not part of any inside conspiracy. And Vernon explains to Palfrey that when the mob catches you, they'll strip you naked and go to work on you with a pair of pliers and a blowtorch. And if that line of dialogue, written presumably by Dean Reisner, the screenwriter, is familiar, that Tarantino uses this in Pulp Fiction. Tarantino, a big fan of Charley Varrick. And there's an extra on here, and it's called Refracted Personae, a Charley Varrick video essay by Howard S. Berger. It runs about 70 minutes. Berger did a similar video essay on Play Misty for Me, which was just absolutely superb. And it's the same style. It's kind of like a close reading. Maybe you could call it deconstruction of the mise en scène, which sounds kind of highfalutin, but basically we look at a movie and we enjoy it, and we get involved in the plot, and we enjoy. We get into the characters, the actors, the performances, but are we seeing everything? Well, according to Berger, and he provides ample evidence, we don't see everything. There's all kinds of elements in Charley Varrick, as well as Play Misty for Me. Clint Eastwood, in the same style as directed in the same style as Don Siegel. And I won't go into all the details because they're so much fun to listen and look at his explanation. But for instance, the paradise of the opening scene, and we're quickly intersected by this bank robbery and this violence and this greed and this corruption that's lying at the heart of their local bank, and all the Berger points out all the crosses that Siegel uses. Are we in purgatory? Are we in hell? And he goes on for like 70 minutes and very entertainingly for a very intellectual kind of deconstruction of a movie. And I think it really can add to the appreciation of the film. Walter Matthau was not the original casting of this movie. Originally it was going to be Donald Sutherland. And this, of course, is a very dark movie. People, Walter Matthau is he did. I don't know. It's not shown exactly whether he killed anybody in this movie, but he's part of he's certainly accessory to it. And Sutherland would have been, a much darker vision. With Matthau, this was after The Odd Couple. We see a lot of Oscar Madison in this character. He sort of shambles around. He doesn't look, we're not sure whether he knows what he's doing. He has sort of we watch him in the process of some sort of plan. We really don't have any idea what this plan might be, but he carries it along with his whimsical, kind of cynical sense of humor. He seems to be on top of the situation, and he's up against a terrorizing opponent in the Joe Don Baker character called Molly. And Andy Robinson playing Matthau's ill-fated sidekick. He was the serial killer in Dirty Harry, and Siegel admired his talents, and he's very good in here too, in his kind of idiotic desperation. Felicia Farr turns up in a scene, and she actually gets to go to bed with Walter Matthau. And in real life, Felicia Farr was Jack Lemmon's wife, so I'm sure there's a nice inside joke there. There's also an inside joke with Sherry North, who plays a photographer who also does illegal passports on the side. And when she's visited by Joe Don Baker, he walks through the door and barges through the door and says, "I'm Molly." And Sherry North says, "I didn't figure you out for Clint Eastwood," which is another kind of inside joke because Siegel had wanted Clint Eastwood to play the part that Walter Matthau plays, and Eastwood had turned him down. There's also Tom Tully, who was in the TV series Lineup. Siegel did the movie version of the Lineup, but Tom Tully wasn't in that movie, but he was in a few Siegel movies. He had gone to, and he's a very recognizable actor, and he had gone to Vietnam with Bob Hope on a USO tour and had gotten some infection, lost his leg, so we see him, he's actually is disabled in his scene with a wheelchair, and he's very good in this. Marjorie Bennett, an old actress, I have to mention her because she's just so terrific in this movie. She's like this she's the manager of the trailer park where Walter Matthau lives, and she's kind of a comical old biddy kind of character, which she did very well. And all these supporting actors in Siegel movies, everybody they don't have a shtick to do, but they're all memorable. They have something to do. Jacqueline Scott playing Walter Matthau's wife in the opening scene is also excellent in this movie. So I mentioned in the extras the great visual essay by Howard S. Berger. There's also a commentary by Toby Rohn, and this is really excellent as well. And there's also a documentary that was produced in cooperation with Christopher Tabori, who was Don Siegel's actor son. His mother was Siegel's one-time wife, Vivica Lindfors. And we get a lot of real good information, interviews with Andy Robinson, with Lalo Schifrin, the composer who composed many of these later films of Siegel and many of the films of Clint Eastwood as well. And he's really excellent in describing how they came up with the music, and especially with the finale, and how he tried to enhance the finale, the very exciting finale of Charley Varrick. And we also get a really good essay by Nick Pinkerton in this very small little booklet. It has a few pictures in it, not a whole lot. You see, that's Joe Don Baker as Molly, and that's Matthau and Andy Robinson sorting through their $750,000. The movie it got real good reviews here in the United States. Matthau was unhappy. He really didn't want to be in the movie. He didn't think he was right for the movie. Andy Robinson reminisces that Matthau told him that. I said, I don't know what I'm doing in this movie, and I'm no good in this. And Andy Robinson, what are you talking about? You're great in this movie. And he didn't understand the plot. He didn't understand what he was doing. He argued with Siegel to add some more stuff to it to make it more understandable. Siegel didn't do that. And Matthau continued his kind of bad-mouthing of the movie after it was done, and the studio must have been influenced a bit by him, because it did very little in promotion of the film in the United States. It only played for a couple weeks before, and then they pulled it. But it did real well when they released it in Great Britain, and Matthau, much to his amazement, received the BAFTA Best Actor Award that year for Charley Varrick, and in France too. It was a big hit. Of course, Siegel was considered one of those auteur American genre film directors, and he would and that type of film noir was very popular in France. So, and the movie has stood the test of time. I know I saw this with my cousin on its original release, and I liked it, but he loved it. And I remember when VHS came out, he either taped it or he bought the VHS tape, and he would watch it over and over again. And evidently a lot of people did as well. And Andy Robinson says that when they had the memorial for Don Siegel and Walter Matthau came, and he heard all these people praising Charley Varrick, he said, I had no idea we were making such a good film. You never know in movies. And so it's good to see that Charley Varrick has survived the test of time. I really liked it, and this King of Lorber edition has a lot of great extras on it, as I've tried to indicate, more so than most King of Lorbers do. So that'll wrap up this particular video. Again, thanks a lot for everybody who listened up to this point. I appreciate it. Comments are always welcome. If not, take care. Catch you next time.